We should be live. Let's try this one more time. Interesting. Curiouser and curiouser. Is it still the same on yours as well?
Yeah.
Do you know what's wild?
Go on.
Actually, on right now, I'm on my page, and the link we've sent people in the messages is showing previously live.
The link.
Yeah, like, so it says we're, so wait, if you go onto my page, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what's wild?
Go on.
Actually, I don't know why we can't get into our thing because it is actually showing us as live on here.
So me and you can't get into it.
Yeah. Imagine. But what we'll have to do then is us basically go to the event page and just keep an eye on the comments. But
I'm on the event page right now. Do you want me
okay.
to write a comment saying
Yeah, if we could. And then
technical issues?
yeah, they can see us, but we can't. Or something. Fascinating. I don't know why it's saying starting soon when we can't get in though. But yeah, looking at my page, could you go onto either of our pages actually? Because
Yeah.
I've been sharing.
So that's our page, and in the middle it says join now.
Yeah, but if you go to like, let's say for example, you go to my page, as in Andre Bright.
Yeah. There, I'm there now.
Okay, and then the most recent post should be a link to this event,
Yeah, and it says happening now.
right? And can you see us moving?
Let me click on it. Yeah, everything I've done is on
Right?
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Mad. I don't know. The thing is, though, I don't know if anyone else can actually access the room live, though. That's my only concern. So, but
So I
let's,
think we should carry on because they can hear us.
okay, let's carry on then. Hopefully, it is working. It's just a glitch on us trying to access ourselves or something. Who knows? All right, cool. Let's roll. So, apologies for the technical difficulties. Mad things are happening with LinkedIn at the moment. But one of the things I was saying earlier is just thank you for joining us on this journey so far. I'm Andre Bright. This is Natasha Bonsu, and we are creating a space to give support to educators because one of the things we noticed is a lack in support in that area. The world is going crazy right now. Economic crises, governmental changes, all kinds of stuff is happening. Some of the things that we've relied on are changing, and these are all causing external pressures. But what we also know is that internally, we have pressures as well: family, friends, relationships, health, wealth, all of those kind of issues. And here we wanted to focus specifically on burnout and wealth to support financial wellness, to support you as educators. So Natasha and I got together and we thought, what best way to do that? And we decided on this series. And this is actually the last episode of that. So if you managed to join us, thank you so much for being part of what we've been creating so far. And if you wanted to bring us into schools, then please do continue to get in touch with us. Towards the middle and the end of today, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. But what we'll do is I'll just set the space a little bit as we get started today so that we can hit the ground running without any more technical difficulties. All right. So hopefully you can see this, but this is our Securing Your Future episode. So this is looking at the future, looking at sustainable practices. So long-term well-being for educators. And like I said, this is part of the Stress and Financial Wellness webinar series. So a question I would ask to you is, why is this topic important for you? The idea about looking forward into the future. Why is that important to you? Is it something that you've been thinking about? Do you foresee there to be challenges? Are you in challenges at the moment that you kind of want to know how to get out of? Are they financial? Is it just to do with stress? Is it something else to do with that? Put your share your ideas in the comments, and what we'll do is Natasha and I will look at the comments to see if there are any in there, and then we'll just respond. I see Natasha's comment there, technical issues, please bear with us. So it is working. So anything that you want to share, ask or tell, please do share. But the question is, why is this topic important for you? This idea about long-term well-being for educators. Are you an educator or do you know one? Is the short term something that you're kind of trying to get through at the moment? We've talked over the past few weeks about this idea of what's the word I'm looking for? The fight or flight reactions when we get triggered by something, we make decisions based on the immediate. Are you trying to think long term and think about what that strategy might look like? This will be the session for you. So, quick overhead. I'm starting with the welcome, like I'm already doing, and the house rules I'll share in a minute. And then Natasha's going to do the long-term financial strategies. And then in the middle of this, we're going to give you an idea about what we're offering as a partnership with your schools, and then how to advocate for us within your schools. And then it's going to come back to me looking at the long-term burnout strategies. And then we're going to give space for Q&A and then reset the room with the offer at the end. So house rules are very simple. First of all, assume positive intent. If you hear something that you're not quite sure about, ask yourself, what would that mean if it came from a good place? Number two is speak for yourself. I can't speak for every young black handsome male, so I could just speak for myself. Confidentiality matters. It's a public forum, so please don't share anything that's confidential, especially in the chats. Number four is respect different perspectives. We're not here to have a unilateral monolith viewpoint. We're here to see what the different viewpoints are so we can look at all of them. Number five is engage, don't dominate. We'll be keeping our eyes peeled for the chats, but just be mindful of other people in the room who might want to share something. Number six is no judgment, only growth. Keep in mind, be curious is the way I'd put it. Look at it as an opportunity. If there's something that doesn't quite align with you, think to yourself, oh, okay, how can I use that? Or how can that be something that I can learn from? Number seven is take what resonates, leave what doesn't. Not everything that is shared might be for you. You might be in a different stage of stress. It might be a different stage of finances. But if something doesn't resonate with you where you are at the moment, doesn't mean it won't resonate with somebody else. And then save the questions, put them into the comments. We're going to keep an eye out on LinkedIn, like I said. So put your comments in there. And then towards the end, when we have the Q&A, we're going to be coming back to those so you can get the answers then. One thing I would encourage you to do, actually, if you're listening right now, is to just put a comment, just put a 1 into the comments, just so we know that you're there, that you can see us, that you can hear us, and we're going to carry on moving. So I'm going to send it over to Natasha, your financial wellness consultant, for the first part of the presentation.
Thank you, Andre. My presentation is in the background. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being with us. This is our third and final part to our series. It's been actually a nice journey seeing Andre every week. It's been quite fun, so I will miss him. But today's session is on securing your future. We've spoken so much about well-being, but as we all know, once we've perfected or have an understanding of our well-being, we need to keep that momentum going, not to lose focus, and keep on going and being in track. So Andre, just confirm if this is full screen for you.
Yes, I can see it right there, and it's changing as we go.
Thank you. So today's third and final session, financial stress is why we are here. We understand that teacher's salary is not the most amazingly beautifully packaged, but it is something that unfortunately our educators are having to maneuver in this part of their life. So financial stress is a major contributor to burnout, especially in professions like education where the workloads are hard and high. So the long-term strategy to build resilience, everything that I'm about to say is to build your resilience for the long term, okay? Once we can identify your stresses, we know what triggers you, then we can focus our energy on that aspect and reduce the stress in that area. Also, by talking about these things, we are looking at your long-term financial goals to focus on what's important for you as the educator Understanding your burnout, your stress allows us to now control your finances, and therefore your finances don't control you, but you control your finances. And then finally, when we discuss such things, it focuses on your career stability. A lot of teachers come into teaching 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Unfortunately, because of the financial stress, they do have to leave the profession. If we discuss well-being in the workplace, that senior leadership can understand where your perspective is, it may allow the higher turnover to be reduced and for educators to remain in their profession. Now, I talk about financial well-being for a few years now. My background is in asset and pension management in the UK and Ghana, and I have lived experience of financial challenges. I tell people all the time, I've had a corporate salary 20 years ago, which was very nice and juicy. I've been unemployed with 2 kids, and now I'm self-employed. So I've navigated peaks and troughs within my finances. So therefore, I speak about personal finance, women in enterprise, resilience at the home and work, and our relationship with money. But let's focus on my educators. I am so privileged to go to schools, talk to young people about financial literacy and well-being, that after my session, teachers will come to me and say, oh, I wish we discussed this when I was in school. I wish that we knew about budgeting and well-being when before we entered the workplace. So I say this to say, once I've been into these schools and I'm talking to teachers, I ask them, why did you become an educator? What made you become a teacher? Then we have a nice talk by the coffee machine, and they tell me some of the reasons why they did. So sometimes when I'm talking about long-term well-being, as Simon Sinek has said, we have to find out our why. Why did we start in the first place? Let's put the financial issues to the side. Why are you an educator? If I could relieve financial stress, would you continue to be an educator? So some of you might feel comfortable putting in the comments why you became an educator so that I can show you the roadmap of your long-term well-being. Now, there are going to be different financial stresses for different people in different parts of their career journey. There's going to be new teachers, middle teachers, and experienced teachers over 20 years. Every single one of you have a different dynamic, but typically the 3 common stresses will be low salary. The average salary for teachers in the UK is £33,000. Roughly, that's a take-home pay, depending on other factors, about 2,000 something pounds a month. Now, the financial strain to meet your basic costs on that salary can be and sometimes is difficult. So sometimes financial stresses for teachers is the low salary. Another financial stress that we are all experiencing, not just teachers, is the rise in living costs. We can't change the things external to us, but we can exchange the things internal. What do I mean? Inflation and average rent has gone up. So therefore, what you used to pay in rent 4 years ago is not what you're paying in rent or mortgage repayment now. So it's difficult to maintain your standard of living. And then finally, a lot of teachers that I've met in my years, I'll go in 1 year, next year I'll come back. Oh, so and so is on maternity leave. So it's so nice to know that teachers obviously are on maternity leave, but obviously that means they now have additional responsibilities in their household, now childcare costs to juggle with their low salary. I say this to say, as educators, especially when it comes to financial well-being, we have to understand what aspect we need well-being for, because some teachers don't have the issue of the low salary, but a teacher may have the issue of financial responsibilities because there could be a single parent juggling school hours and after school care. Once we have established your financial stresses, then we now go into the next part of understanding your long-term financial well-being um, ideas that we can implement for you, because again, all of us are individuals. I say this to say that typically when it comes to your long-term financial well-being, educators, it's as simple as it may sound, but it's not. Your financial buffer is, in a nutshell, your budgeting. How have you established and utilizing what's available to you? Some of you, some teachers, some educators are really great at saving, but have you moved your savings to a high interest savings account? It sounds as simple as that, but when I've asked teachers, it's in a basic cash savings account at 1%, where you could have moved it to another account and earned yourself 4 or 5%. Again, sometimes if we don't tell you, it doesn't seem obvious, but just that quick switch. Are we utilizing our ISAs for the short-term goals and our long-term well-being? Another thing that we need to discuss as educators is understanding your pension. Now, when it comes to pension and long-term well-being with educators, your pension is based on your salary. Okay, so if your salary towards your towards is a percentage of your salary, not how much you are putting in, which encourages a lot of teachers to be promoted and gain a higher salary, because a higher salary means that they'll be contributing more. If you don't know what your allowance is or what you've been contributing, please ask the HR department and going onto the gov.uk website to get a bit more. That will help you with your planning for the future. Another thing that we need to consider is knowing your rights and benefits. There are lots of times when teachers, we leave money on the table. What do I mean? Teachers are eligible for teacher tax rebates on expenses that you have not claimed. For example, if your school cannot provide you with a stapler and pen and stationery consistently for 6 weeks, and you decide to purchase those items, you can now get an expense claim on those items that you've kept a receipt for. Again, it's something that is so small and so trivial, but that stationery bill every term, if you're spending 40, 50, 60 pounds every term, 3 terms in a year, and you've been working for 5 years, that's a little bit of money on the table that you've left behind. So please check what your rights are and the benefits, and you're utilizing everything that you're entitled to. The same goes to sick pay and maternity pay and paternity pay, but I felt it was right to highlight that the fact that teachers are entitled to a tax rebate, especially on expenses that which you can claim. Another thing that we need to consider when we're thinking about our long-term financial well-being is career flexibility. It's so easy to say, oh, teachers, if your salary is low, be a tutor, do extra hours and tutor offline and be a tutor as extra income. But not all teachers want to continue to be a tutor after work. But going and exploring your professional development, that can lead to new income opportunities. So as your CPD training evolves as you're at work, it can lead to new income opportunities. That does not necessarily mean that you need to be a tutor. It could mean that you're a consultant. You've specialized in possibly maybe safeguarding, that now you're a safeguarding consultant, sharing your insights with other schools, that you can exchange your knowledge for money. So that's another way of you increasing your and adding an extra string to your bow. And then finally, I always like to summarize some of my workshops in a mindset shift, because again, teachers, it's a noble profession. You're a nurturing profession. You look out for other people before you look out for yourself. But I'm always very mindful. We need to care for the people who care for us. So I've used this acronym just to explore and highlight what I mean. T is for talk about money openly. It's a very UK thing not to talk about money. Teachers don't want to talk about money because they don't want to be seen to be greedy, or it's a noble profession. So we're doing it because we're passionate, not because of the salary. However, we're in a society now that we need to talk about money because we all have financial concerns and pressures. So if you have a loved one, an employer, a well-being advisor in your workplace that you can openly share your money issues with, it gives you that avenue to just release and feel comfortable in the workplace. E is to empower yourself with knowledge. You are here this evening listening to Andre and I because you want to know about other practical tips that you can use to help you in your journey. So this is what I'm saying is the correct thing to do. Gain in knowledge in your pension, your savings, your ISAs, your investments. however you can to ensure that your well-being is intact is so important. And sometimes, however, we need to empower ourselves. Then we share what we've learned with our management, senior leaders, and then they now implement like well-being days. So this is how the conversation starts. A is to acknowledge your needs. Again, teacher, because you're a nurturing profession, you think about others sometimes before you think of yourself. If the salary is low, if you can speak to your senior leaders, what do I need to do to make sure that I can be promoted 2 years from now, 3 years now? Acknowledge that you want to be promoted and what's the strategy to gain a promotion. C is to challenge the guilt. Again, don't feel bad or guilty for asking for more, needing more well-being days, because your job is, without a shadow of a doubt, stressful. The workload is hard, marking is time consuming, different behavioral issues within the school, different types of challenges in the school means that your job is challenging. And how can we support you in order for you to be as effective as possible? And then H is hope for the future. Everything that me and Andre share, there is a strategy for your future if you decide to remain in this profession. That's why in the beginning I asked why you became an educator, because you're going to have to understand your why, maintain it, and hold on to the reason why you're in this profession, so that you can carry on in that journey and have a strategy for your long-term well-being. I say this to say that there'll be different strategies for different people, but some of you could take one or two of what I mentioned. The financial buffer, obviously the budget is set in, your budget is set in stone. You have your salary, but during summer holidays, is there something else you could do to increase your income temporarily during the summer holidays? Is there a way that you can understand your rights? Does the workplace need to update the intranet so you know what you're entitled to? Do you need to find out more about your pension and have more discussions in the workplace? There will be a strategy for everybody today to implement, just to understand their future, so that you can remain in the profession that you dreamed of 20, 30 years ago, and that you continue to remain in that job now. I say this and I come to an end. Wellness, my time in the well-being scene is very much that individuals have to advocate for themselves, and then they present it to senior leaders and management, and then they hear your concerns. So if you're here today, I encourage you, let your senior leaders know that your wellness as a teacher aligns with the school's mission to provide high quality education. If you as a teacher are not well in yourself, you cannot deliver on the school's mission for high quality education. It is also a physiosocial hazard not to have a wellness plan in your school. Why? Because schools have a legal obligation to address any hazards. Physiosocial is a hazard, just like spilled water on the floor is a hazard. The school has to show and has a legal obligation to implement these kinds of programs. And we all know that the return on implementing these kinds of wellness days, the return on investment is just enormous, because it's the improved teacher retention, it's the reduced absenteeism, and it's the increased productivity. Because we all know changing teachers means that young people have to gain a new relationship with another teacher and build that rapport. Whereas if we implemented wellness days, there wouldn't be a turnover, there wouldn't be a change of teachers, so that we can keep the momentum in the school high. So that is my aspect of financial wellness. We don't have any more sessions because today is the last one. But thank you so much for being with me and Andre this evening.
Absolutely. And if there are any questions, please do put them in the comments. We'll be able to see them as we go. But I just wanted to add on to what Natasha was saying, especially with regards to the advocacy part, because I think that's really important, especially with what we're trying to do here. So if you can all see the screen, here are what I call the 5 steps to advocacy that you can help us with when it comes to, like she mentioned before, all the things that you can probably be experiencing. But then the question is, how can you, as someone who's within the school, advocate for yourself and the other teachers and your team, for example, for the school to bring people like us in. So the 5 steps we have is, number 1 is understanding the current landscape, thinking about what government initiatives are available, what mental health support teams there are. Number 2, align your program with the school priorities. And I think was mentioned before, thinking about what is relevant, what is on the school value system, what are the evidence-based benefits. So thinking about stats and case studies, and we can help you with that as well. Number 3 is preparing a proposal. So once you got all that data and you've got a reason, you've got you've basically done your pitch of why to bring people like us in, think about your proposal, draft a brief, right? And then program a review overview so that you can have a look at what that program will look like, and we can give you one of those. Focus on the benefits, not just to you, but to the school as well. And then looking at what other funding opportunities might be available to bring us into it if the school itself doesn't have a budget for it left. Number 4 is initiate the conversation. This bit can be a bit tricky. It's like, how do you approach your head or your deputy head? If you've got a good relationship, it might be easier. But either way, identify who the decision makers are. This is a trick that it happens anywhere. You can spend all your time speaking to the wrong people. Make sure you're speaking to the decision makers. Number 2 is scheduling a meeting with that person and whoever needs to be there to be able to make those decisions on the spot. And then present confidently. Once you're there, you know what you need, you know what the benefits will be. Present confidently. You got really, when it comes to sharing this kind of thing, you're transferring certainty to somebody else. They want to leave certain that this was a good decision for the school. And then number 5 is offering support and next steps, which again, we can help you with, but part of it can look like facilitating connections. It can providing materials that we can do and helping you with follow-up. Now you'll see a QR code on the right here. This is to the main document I'm reading from, which will give you those 5 steps. And it's got a link at the end to book a call with us if you need any help to actually help you advocate for yourselves in the school. And overall, there's one main package that we're offering to schools at the moment, which I'll come back to after I've done my part on burnout in a second. But it comes with training, which is like 2 sets of videos that you learn in your own time. And then after a couple of weeks, we do a live Q&A session to answer any questions, but build up on that learning into how to implement it using the implementation playbook, which is the resource that comes with that package. And then there's a checklist, which looks at burnout and budgeting. Like it's a quick reference guide really for stress and money-based questions. And overall, the payoffs are things like having a structured system for managing stress and finances long-term, individually as well as you as a team, actionable tools to apply immediately in your daily life and get into your routines and your habits, and a clear path for resilience and confidence and financial security. So today we're looking at the long-term effects, right? So we're looking at how to create sustainable processes and systems that help us with stress and financial well-being. Well, this is a clear path to that. And then there's add-ons as well, which I'll explain a little bit later. So this is coming back to me as your burnout prevention coach. We've talked a little bit about the financial wellness, which is a really important part of wellness in general, because finance has such a big impact on our wellness these days statistically. And you might have felt it as well. And we've talked a bit about that in the previous sessions. So I always start it with this quote: the pessimist complains about the wind, the optimist expects it to change, and the leader adjusts the sails. These series is about you learning how to adjust the sails and what you need to pull to be able to change those sails. Anyone who's ever done sailing will know I'm talking about. You've got to know what to pull to be able to have the effect you actually want. So we're here to help you with that. So my name is Andre Bright. I'm a burnout prevention coach. I've got a background in architecture and dance, which can often seem like such an interesting mix, but what it means is that when it comes to the way I deliver coaching, there's often quite creative methods that I use, because often just speaking isn't enough. And you might have seen this before. If you're trying to communicate how you feel, if you're stressed and things like that, sometimes a word isn't enough. Sometimes it comes out as a sound or a movement or a gesture. I'm ICF certified, and I've worked with companies like Google and Lloyd's to help them with teams and do wellness sessions within their days, and seen the impact of that over time. worked, and then recently have been working more with education, so UEL, LSBU, doing projects with them, and really seeing what the impact of stress is, but then also what we can do about it. Because one of the things I found is that when you look at stress and burnout prevention tools, we're often just talking about the surface stuff: take time off, go on a spa trip, and all this kind of stuff. But then once you come back to school, you're stressed all over again. So it means that that kind of stuff didn't actually fix it. I often talk about the difference between sleep, rest, and recovery, for example. Understanding the difference between these things can actually get you to a stage of wellness, even in an environment that can be difficult. But there's also the element of how to address the environment. So today I'm looking at a 5-step formula, really. I love my framework. So this one's called SPACE, the space to live well. So this is long-term well-being strategies for you, the educators, or those who support them. The first part is looking at your personal foundations. So what's already working? I'm a really big fan of appreciative inquiry. So look at what strengths, last time you were stressed, what did you do that helped? And keep doing that. Identify identity and purpose management alignment is really important though. Like, are you doing what you're here to do? Do you even know what that might be? Do you find that there are things that rub you up the wrong way and you don't understand why? Has the school experienced a huge change in their priorities, which doesn't align with yours anymore? Are they asking you to do things that you just don't agree with? All these things can add stress. Your personal resilience strategies. Do you have the tools, your breathing techniques, your forgiveness, and all these kind of things at different levels of depth to help you be more resilient? One of the definitions of resilience I often give is it's the gap between crisis and recovery. That's all resilient is. Each person has their own level of resilience. You can be experiencing the same thing, but some people will bounce back quicker than others. What do you do that helps you bounce back quicker so you can continue? That's what resilience means. And then energy management over time management. Time management is great because it means that you can use your time well and effectively. But energy management is important because you can have a whole day full of stuff, but still be energized if it's stuff that you're aligned with. But then you all know what it's like having that one class or one person that ruins your whole day and drains the energy from you. So it's energy management as well as time management. One of the things I also wanted to mention was about that rhythm idea, right? You might have heard of the circadian rhythm, your day versus night patterns. Like, are you getting enough sleep? Are you going to sleep and waking up at the same times? Those kind of things. But then also there's emotional energy zones. Are you in a positive or negative energy mode? Are you in a high energy or low energy? And the combinations of those could determine if you're in a performance zone where you're kind of optimistic, confident, excited, which is where we really love to be when we're in the zone and we're locked in. Are you in survival mode though, where you're stressed and you're frustrated and you're anxious? So you still have high energy, but it's negative. Are you in your low energy and negative energy, which is where you start feeling burnout? Are you exhausted? You're drained, you're sluggish, you're empty, and things start to change in a negative way. Or are you in a positive energy, but low, which means you're in recovery? So this is where you're relaxed, you're peaceful, you're calm, you're at ease, you're asleep, that kind of thing. So P is professional pathways. So what's helping you stay in the profession? Natasha mentioned a little bit about this before, but how can we make it robust? So micro affirmations and peer support are important. Are people encouraging you? Do you get encouragement from above as well as alongside you as peers? Is there a clear pathway to where you want to go? And it doesn't have to be straight. Sometimes it might mean taking a little left or going backwards to go forwards. Sometimes it's not a straight line. And are there CPDs that nurture, not drain you towards that goal? And can you ask for those things? Can you advocate for yourself to do that? The next one is affinity and community. So this is really important because community is so important when it comes to anti-burnout practice. Who is around you? Do you experience psychological safety? Can you go to your boss and express something without the fear of losing your job? Do you have regular safe spaces? And safe spaces is a funny one. It doesn't have to be quote unquote safe. It doesn't mean that nothing's going to go wrong within that space. You might cry, you might crumble, you might be vulnerable. But the idea of a safe space is that you may do all those things, but then it's a space that allows you to build up as well. And then distributed leadership and voice. So can you actually share? Will your voice be heard? Is there space for you to comment, to give feedback, to suggest ideas that will make things easier for you as well as the school? And what energizes you in your team or school environment, really? The next one is clarity with money. So Natasha's done a dope job with this over the last few weeks, so I don't need to cover it too much. I'll just really quickly jump over it. So what would it look like if you had more control and clarity? Because that's really what we're looking for when we say money. It's not just the cash we're looking for, it's the freedom that it affords us. So financial literacy training. Do you know how to budget? Do you know how to invest? Do you know how to save? Do you know how to spend less on what you don't want, and so you got more capacity for the things you do want? Are you able to have transparent conversations about pay and value around the people around you? A lot of the times, people, like the ceilings remain because people aren't communicating with each other to know that the ceiling's even there. I could sit there and assume that this is just the highest that I can go when the person next to me is experiencing much more wealth, but that can happen if we don't communicate. And then well-being budgeting, put it into your budget, things that actually help your well-being. Do you need that spa? Do you need that massage? Do you need that holiday once a year? All those things that will allow you to keep that balance going and have clarity with your money because you know what you're doing with it. E is the ecosystem of care. So this is when the organization gets involved. What is the school already doing well, and how could it deepen or improve on it? So thinking about, is there a long-term well-being strategy? Is there a strategy at all? Are there services that you as an employee of the school have access to? Is there healthcare? Is there wellness? Is there therapy, coaching? What about data informed decisions, or are they literally just made off the back of emotions, right? So what kind of partnerships and programs are available? Is there anything that can support you in your growth as a school member? And then just to kind of close out that section, one main thing to remember is that burnout prevention is not just a one-time thing. It's about culture building. So it's a long term. And one of the things I find is like four specific shifts that can happen for cultural shifts to occur is that one, they happen in small steps. So don't expect something crazy to happen all overnight, although sometimes it does happen, which is like amazing. But a lot of the time it's small steps that are repeated often, and there's collective buy-in. This part is really important. I'm sure Natasha could agree. If you believe in one thing but your head doesn't, it's really difficult to make things happen. It needs collective buy-in from everybody who's involved. And then leadership modeling all the way. So is leadership modeled by the upper ups as well as the people who are within your peership? So I think that is mainly it for the moment. We'll give some space for some questions. I don't see any in the chats at the moment. Natasha, do you?
No.
Okay, brilliant. So what we can do is maybe we can have like a couple of minutes just to chat over some of the things we've discussed before we go on to the advocacy and share at the end, the offer. 1 second. Cool. Because I think some of the things we shared today, especially looking at the long term, are really important because we can be so focused on what's immediately in front of us, but we don't actually think about the long term and look at strategies. I had a conversation today with someone who just believed that things just can't change. And it might feel like that, but often there is at least something small you can do. And one of the things I'm really passionate about is this idea of what's the word I'm looking? Compound interest. So compound interest in terms of wellness as well. So can you do something really small now, something really small tomorrow, something really small the day after, which accumulatively over time will have a big shift in your wellness and feel like much better. Sometimes it might be surface level, like, okay, do I need to split my pots in my savings account so that, one is literally just for this holiday, one is for the car, one is for whatever it might be. Is it that I'm going to take, £60 a month to the side, and that's going to be towards my massage or like a day in a spa or something like that? Is it that I'm going to say no more often so that I can actually have the capacity to say yes to the things I do want? Because when I keep doing the things that I don't want to do, I don't have the space to do the things that I do want to do. Like there could be all kinds of different things we can do, which are on a day-to-day basis that can build us in the habits, so that long term you can change, have quite large shifts. But is it what am I missing?
For me, I just feel like teachers get a bad rep because they're seen to have 6 weeks summer holiday,
Mm,
2 weeks over Christmas, 2 weeks over Easter. So net, it's okay. And it's not okay. The reason why in the summer holidays or Easter or Christmas is that they're doing a lot of lesson planning. Even me creating my resources, there's a lot of information that needs to go into a lesson plan so that there's the scaffolding procedure that the student takes an overall understanding of the topic. So I
mm,
say this to say, just because they get 6 weeks leave doesn't mean it justifies their low salary. That's why the well-being for teachers is so much more important, because one, society says you've got extra holiday, so just take it as that. No,
mm,
it is a stressful job looking after and being mindful of other children. Even me looking after my own during COVID, I was like, I
mhm,
can't imagine my son times 30 for one teacher to take and look after. So there's a bad rep. So this is why what we're doing is we there's a need.
mm,
Now with the financial well-being space, I'm saying all of this to say we all have our personality with money. Some of us are naturally savers, some of us are naturally spenders. So again, when we're talking about well-being and finances, understand who you are, what you're good at, and then let's see if we can build a system around you that focuses on how we can better protect you and your finances. Then one of the great things about teachers is obviously your pension, but even that, we can't think about tomorrow if we're uncomfortable today. So there's that balance of thinking about today's needs versus tomorrow's wants, but on net average being protected. So yes, there is a mixture of everything, but we hope that today's session everybody has gained something from stress techniques, financial techniques, because of session one and session two, I really share practical hints and tips about debt management, prioritizing who's important, who's not. So there's a lot to do that we've tried to put in a 3 week series that we hope can edify and has been beneficial to everyone involved.
yeah, and I just wanted to add on as well, like really do go, if this is on LinkedIn, right? So
Yeah.
you can go back and see the previous sessions that we've done, because the first week was looking very much in the moment. What is finance? How does finance work? How does stress work? And looking at the basics. Then we built up on that, and now we're looking at the future of today. But one thing I would encourage you to do, and this is not just to you as educators, but it's just to you in general,
Mhm.
but specifically to you as educators, is actually ask yourself the question, what do I want? Start with that question. Like, what do I want? What would I like my life to look like? I know it sounds like a really big existential question, but I don't think we spend enough time actually thinking about that. What usually happens is, because we're putting out fires so much, our vision is quite low to the ground. We're just looking at immediately what's in front of us. So we don't actually think about the idea of planning towards something different. And again, this is saying that because there's been a few clients recently which we've managed to actually shift the vision up and seen minor steps. The second point I would say is that if you are going to ask yourself that question, don't assume you have to get there tomorrow, because you'll find yourself that, okay, I want to be financially free. I want to be able to take holidays whenever I want, but I can't do it anytime soon. So I won't try. And you would accept that this has to be the way it has to be, when often it can't. If you gave yourself a 5 or 10 year plan, you'll be able to achieve a lot of the things that you think you probably can't at the moment. If you do those small steps, and Tay mentioned, I like that, the compound interest concept, it can often be like that, right? So for example, can you put a little bit away? Natasha was talking to about different kind of ways you can save and different kind of ways you can invest, so you can, instead of 1%, you can be up to 4%. You can be doing all these things so that it doesn't actually impact your day-to-day flow of money, but it can have a really big impact for the future, so that you can retire slightly earlier than you plan to, so that you can make sure that when your children go to school, they're able to do it without having a big loan over their heads, because you've managed to put a little bit aside, from the, since they were 2, 3 years old, whatever that might be. If you stop and think to yourself, how would I want it to work, then there might be little things that you can do now that accumulatively will get you there. I just wanted to give that as an idea, because I think far too few of us really actually ask ourselves that question seriously enough to look for the answer. The third thing is the final thing, honestly, I swear, but only because I'm looking at every opportunity to tell everybody this one phrase. It is, most of the time we spend too much time looking for the right answer when we should spend all that energy looking for the right question. If we find ourselves in a situation where you're struggling, pushing against all kinds of resistance, it might be because we're asking the wrong question. If you spend more time thinking about the right question, you might find the answer much quicker. That's just one thought I wanted to leave you with. So for those of you who are like, yes, Natasha, Dre, we need you in the schools, we need help, either individually or as a team, as a school in general, we have something we've put together for you. I'm just going to share it to you real quick. And again, if there's anyone in the audience who does have a question, then you can put it in the chats and then we'll share it as we go. Ultimately, at this point is where I offer you the choice. So Natasha and I have obviously been doing this for a while now, and there's things that we've seen that works, things that we've seen that doesn't. Now you can take this same journey and you can find yourself in a situation where you can either take longer but find it yourself. Like you find, there's the research that we found is the same research you'll find, the same practices that we found are the same practices you'll find. But our way is the shortcut. If you speak to us, we'll be able to come to your school, spend some time with you, figure out what's actually working and what isn't, maximize the things that are working and reduce the things that aren't. And the way that we've put this together is a package here that we call the Educators Burnout and Financial Wellbeing Accelerator. This is one I didn't find an acronym for. So it's just gonna have to do for a while until we do find one. But it's built up of four main factors. Number one is the training itself. So similar to this, we've spent the last 6 weeks going through different levels of financial and burnout well-being concepts that we can help educators to have more of a sustainable lifestyle, right? So we are going to do a deep dive with this in a video form. So you as a student, effectively, it's self-learning based. So you'll just get a link and you'll be able to watch it in your own time. One of the videos is about burnout recovery and stress mastery. The other video is about financial confidence for educators. So similar to what we've done so far, but much deeper. And then the next part is a couple of weeks after that is your school would book a live Q&A session, which is where we will sit there and answer any questions you might have as a result of the training, or any questions you might have specifically to you. Are you challenged with figuring out how you can divvy up your salary to feed yourself, your partner, your children, while still, managing ASDA prices or whatever that might be? Are you trying to get that to that point where you have like a little bit saved up and you're not sure what you can reduce on to be able to create an emergency fund? Because every time something small happens, it puts you into the red again. And then we have the implementation playbook. So it's all good having all these ideas, but how can you actually implement it into your lifestyle? So it's a workbook that you can take action to. It's got reflection exercises similar to the questions we've been asking today. If you actually take time to realistically answer these questions, you'll be surprised the answers you find. And then it ends with a checklist, which is looking at burnout and budgeting. It's a quick reference guide, so you can jump in and out and say, tick, 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 I've done these, but these ones are missing. And you'll be able to they're all actionable things that you'll be able to do to be able to have a foundation of essentials, really. Ultimately, the payoffs are that there's a structured system for managing your stress and finances long term. 2 is that there's actionable tools to apply immediately. It's things you can do right now and start seeing results. And then 3 is a clear path. Like I mentioned earlier, you can see your way out of the tunnel. Part of the problem is that we give up while we're right in the middle of it. So when we're in the middle of the tunnel, we don't see any light in either direction. We often give up then. The idea is, can you keep going until you see light again and getting back into the open air? And then what we also recognize is that sometimes some schools might need more support. there might be individuals within there who might need more support as well. So we offer coaching support, one-to-one coaching support as a addition, and a 6-week group coaching program, which is basically for 6 weeks we'll get together similar to this, but with the teachers within your educators within your school, and we will just it would group coaching. Basically, you asking us questions, we're asking you questions, and it's also a way for accountability. One thing I've found that's really important when it comes to getting ourselves out of that stage is having someone to be like, hey, you committed to doing this, how are you doing with that? Do you need more help? Like, what's going on? How can we get you to that stage where you wanted to be before? And that's it. So for those of you who are interested in that, please do get in touch with us. You can, I mentioned before about how to advocate for us in your school. Understand the current landscape. So if you do see that last screen and think, okay, we definitely need these guys, think about the current landscape. What is it that is on offer from the school and the government already? What is working, what isn't? Align our program with the school's priorities. So which means going on the website, there's usually an about us page, which looks at the values and everything, and what programs that might be running, see what the alignments are, and then prepare your proposal with those things in mind. Initiate the conversation. It's got to be with the right decision makers, and then offer support and next steps. Now we can help you with all of that, and we can do that by filling in, booking a call with us, which is the QR code on the right. So with that, it's a quick call where Natasha and I will sit with you and we'll go through the what it looks like to advocate. Is it that we need to book it with the headmaster? Is it that we need to book it with the directors, or is there a board? Is there, how do we do that? How do we approach them? So we'll help you with all of that and hopefully get into your school. And the other thing that would be really useful for us is to give us feedback on these sessions and see what you've learned and how they've been effective. So the feedback form is on the left. The book a call with us is on the right. And if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube, I'm going to put the link in the chats a little bit later on as well. So by the time you come back to us, it will be there. And I think that's it. How are we
Tay
doing?
has a question for us in the chat. Can you send this to me? I have a teacher acquaintance that this might be of interest to. Thanks.
When you say send this to me, is that
It was
the...
at the time when you showed the accelerator package.
Okay, yeah, sure, absolutely. What I might do actually as well is in the chat, I'll just put a link to the presentation, because then you can skip straight to that page. And then it gives any background of things that you might need as well. Cool. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll put that in the chats in a moment.
And then Taze asks one more question. Is there another session? Send it to me so that she can see you both in action. Unfortunately, this is our third and final, but it is pre-recorded. So if you go on Andre's page, you will see previous events. You could share that link with your acquaintance.
Yeah, and I think what I might do is I'm gonna do a post maybe tomorrow morning or so with a link to all 3 of the sessions we've had so far, because then it can be a one-stop shop to everything you need to give to somebody. Because then they can have a look at each of them. They're all free, obviously. If you're on LinkedIn, you can access them. It's also on YouTube, by the way, but that's a side thing. And then in that message as well, I'll also put the links to the QR code links as well. So I just put everything on there. I know you, Tay, obviously, so I'll make sure I'll tag you in there. And yeah, and I think that's it off the top of my head. Okay, no problem. I see you. Awesome. We've done well with time,
We have apologies for the technical issues when we started, guys.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but we move. Ultimately, we brought it back. We managed to effectively, if we'd have started on time, we would have finished earlier than on time as well. So we've done well. Again, if there are any questions, if you do watch this later on and you find this, because LinkedIn has this beautiful way of circulating things later than there actually were. If you do come across this and you're like, oh, this is actually really useful, don't think it's too late to get in touch with us. Still use the link, still get in touch with us directly or as a unit. Comment any questions or thoughts or anything that you found useful so that we know that you found it useful as well. And if there's any experiences that you've had, any stories where you're like, okay, cool, this is exactly what these two are talking about, then feel free to share that as well. Because we know it's not, we've seen a lot and we know these aren't isolated situations. We know a lot of people within the education system are going through it at the moment, and we just want to help. So it's good to have a feel of what people are experiencing so that we can tailor stuff that we're doing right now to help that as well. Um, I think that's it from me, though. What about you, Natasha?
No, you have summarized it beautifully. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And just let's carry on with this journey. But talk about money, talk about if you're stressed, let people know you're not well.
Definitely, definitely. And, use these tips to have a strategy to get well.
Mm.
I had a friend of mine recently who was very open with that, I'm not okay. And I think it's, even though there's like hashtags and bumper stickers about it, is that it is actually okay not to be okay all the time, especially if you're the kind of person who's trying to put on a brave face for everybody else on your team, at home, in the family. You got to have spaces for you to actually be real, to take down the mask and look at what's there, because only when you look at it as it is can you actually do something about it. So have an amazing evening, whatever you're up to. Please do keep in touch with us both. And I'm sure it won't be the last time we work together. So you'll see us again on your profiles. And either way, have a good night and God bless.